Hello, fifth grade. Welcome back to science. The first thing that I'm going to have you do today is take a gallery walk through my room, looking at the different models that your classmates and yourself created yesterday. My expectations are, when I'm done giving directions, you will pause this video and then you will silently walk through my room looking at all 10 trays with the 2 models in each tray. Please remember where yours is because you will be using it shortly. When finished, I'll have you go back to your seat and continue with this video. Okay, now that you've heard the directions, please pause the video and do your gallery walk. Okay, hopefully you've completed your gallery walk. Now that you've had a chance to look over the models, I'd like you to think about what your group and the other groups included in your models. Hopefully you were able to see boundaries and the grand pieces used to represent buildings and other features, possibly on the playground, trees. There were no right or wrong models, just different portrayals. Some had more or less details, but at least you got a chance to see some other people's portrayals. The next thing that you will need is your content inquiry page. And what I'm going to have you do is fill in your answers to the 2 questions from the other day. 2 questions were, what features of the schoolyard model did you include in your model? And how would you describe a model to someone else? So if you could please get that sheet out, pause if you need to. Okay, regarding the first question, what features of the schoolyard did you include in your model? You can answer that yourself, what you actually used. Some possible answers might be buildings, playgrounds, sidewalks, trees. Maybe you included the prairie. Whatever you actually used in your own model is what I'd like you to include here. Next question was, how would you describe a model to someone else? What I would like you to do is use your own words to describe that. My answer that I would give is a model is a representation of an object. What we discussed the other day in class was it might be a representation of something smaller, it might be a representation of something bigger, but however you would describe a model to someone else is what I would like you to write in that place. Again, pause is needed. The next part we are going to talk about is part 2 of investigation 1, which is view from above. Your models give you a good idea of what the schoolyard looks like, but they would be difficult to carry around if you were trying to help someone find a particular place in the playground or an entry into the school. Carting around that model with the clay and sand would be pretty inconvenient. So how can we make a version of those models that we can carry around easily? Okay, hopefully you had a chance to think of a couple things. One possible answer that I would talk about would be maps. And maps are drawings of the Earth's surface. There are many different kinds of maps, including some that show roads, structures, landforms. And when you look at a map, you see the land how you would look at it if you were straight above it looking down. You sometimes hear that called a bird's eye view. So what we are going to do today involves creating a map. First thing I would like to talk about is cartographers. Cartographers are people who make maps, and one of the methods that they use is transferring information from a model or a photograph onto a grid. And a grid is like a graph, or like graph paper. It has vertical and horizontal lines, and you can see a picture of a grid now. The grid that you will be using today looks a lot like this. So what I'm going to have you do today is you are going to get an overlay grid, and then what you will do is you will go back and find your model. Hopefully you paid attention to where yours was, because I'd like to do this as quietly as possible. You guys will be in different parts of the video at different times, so we don't want to disturb your other classmates. So what you will do is you will take the overlay grid that looks like this, and you will tape it above your model. So hopefully you followed directions and did not build your model too high. So what you'll do is set the overlay on top of your model, tape it in the corners so that it doesn't sink down on you, or at least doesn't sink down very much. So you'll tape the corners, and then you're going to be looking straight down at your model, and you're going to be using overhead transparency markers to trace the structures and landforms onto your grid sheet. When you are done drawing your grid, please make sure that your name is on it somewhere, and then I'm going to have you put it in the folder that I have next to your model. I'd like to store these for a few days, so please make sure you get an overlay grid, name on it, and draw as many of the features that you included on your model, please. Next thing that you will be doing is adding a few more words into your word bank and adding a few more questions. And if you feel like answering these questions right away today, you can, after you've drawn your overlay grid, but you don't have to. We could go over it tomorrow. So pause the video as needed to go draw your overlay, and then when you are done, just come back to it and I will go over the word bank entries and your content inquiry questions. Alright, hopefully you have had a chance to draw your beautiful overlay map. The words that we will be including in our word wall today are map, cartographer, and grid. I did talk about each of those during the video earlier, but here are the definitions. Again, as always, pause as needed if you need more time than what I'm talking to write your definitions down. Please do so. So a map is a drawing of an area, usually as though you were looking straight down on it. Again, I mentioned bird's eye view if you want to write that in there if that helps you remember. Cartographer, a person who makes maps. And grid, a network of vertical and horizontal lines that form squares. If you want to put example graph paper behind it to help you remember, that is fine with me. The questions from today's activity, and please again write these down. These will be part of your test later on. What information can be included on a map? So think of maps that you've seen, the map that you drew today, and what information can you include on a map. And we will talk about my answers to this tomorrow. Next question, how did you use the grid to help you make a map of your model? Now this is an opinion, so you can write your opinion, and I will also be giving you a few ideas tomorrow. When you are done with this, you could read more of your science story if you have not done so already. I know I had you reading the next 2 pages. The next thing I will also have you doing is getting a response sheet from your teacher to fill out on this excuse me, on this activity. So the response sheet will look like this right here. So response sheet, schoolyard models. Adrian and a group of her Girl Scout troop were studying a local park to find the best place to put the new playground. They needed to present their plan to the city council. They hoped that the city council would approve their plan. She and her friends couldn't decide whether making a model of the playground or drawing a map would be the best way to present their ideas. What do you think Adrian and her friends should do? Write your ideas in the space below and about whether to include a map, model, or both in their presentation. So again, this is kind of an opinion question. I want to see where you guys are at after having the activity today. So when you are done with this, please turn it into my content bin on the bottom of my black bin on my desk. If you do not finish today, I would just need these turned in by Monday. You'll be getting more things tomorrow, so I would not waste my time. If I were you, I would get right to work on these things. All right, that is all for today. If you still have time left in the class period, ask your teacher what you can do, or you can start working on any other homework at this time at your place. Thank you.